When I was a corporate manager of Fairchild Industries in 1974 through 77, I met the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in early 74. At that time, von Braun was dying of cancer, but he assured me that he would live a few more years in order to tell me about the game that was being played, that game being the effort to weaponize space, to control the Earth from space and space itself.
He kept talking about they were going to fake an alien invasion in order to get a one world order, in order to pull everybody together, to bamboozle you.
The strategy that Wernher von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in 74, they were the enemy, the identified enemy. We were told that they had killer satellites. We were told that they were coming to get us and control us, the dirty commies, that whole story. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the next enemy was asteroids. Now at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card.
Here's a model I designed for a four-stage orbital rocket ship.
The alleged father of the American space program, Wernher von Braun.
And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens, and all of it, he said, is a lie.
And the larger-than-life Wernher von Braun was invented, I think, primarily by Disney.
In 1937, Wernher von Braun joined the Nazi Party. He developed for Adolf Hitler the V-2 rocket that was used to bomb Great Britain.
After the war, he's captured, along with many other German scientists, and Americans feel like they've hit a big payload here. They've got these very talented German scientists who are already building rockets. The United States wants to build rockets for the Cold War, and von Braun takes that opportunity as well.
All of those other things were swept under the carpet very carefully by the American government. Information was classified, archives were censored in order to hide those darksome facts from his past.
Disney and von Braun's promotion of space extended into the design of Walt's new theme park.
If one were to think of Disneyland as a whole, you could see it as a type of advertisement for the aerospace industry. The same engineers who were designing aircraft are the same ones who design roller coasters. Disneyland in that way could be seen as marketing material for the Cold War, for high defense spending.
When we were little kids, we grew up with Mickey Mouse and Disney. We watched it every day, every weekend. I mean, it was a big part of our lives.
Not a bad place to be if you want to send a message. You want to catch the attention of the country. Disney is someone that can do that. And Los Angeles as a media market is not a bad place to be promoting that message. If you want to send the message that space is the future.
Did we go to the moon? Did we not go to the moon? Why have we never gone back to the moon?
What NASA is, the whole foundation would have to be different. And this is what I found very interesting. So this guy, T. Keith Glennon, right? His previous qualification, get this. First of all, he was from Yale University, as in Skull and Bones, the Bushes, Yale. And he was one of the heads at Paramount Studios.
Paramount was a creditor.
Expert in imaging.
How convenient for NASA.
And I became vice president and general manager of that. Now this was in 1931. I guess I was 26 years old, something like that. I was responsible for managing the studio, providing the crews, cameramen and all the rest of that, carpenters, makeup artists, that type of thing.
And MGM. Working with imaging. Okay, why is a guy that's chosen to be in charge of NASA, which is supposed to be space travel and rocketing, an expert in imaging, probably the foremost authority in the world at that time in imaging? Why is imaging so important to NASA?
Giving birth, founding NASA. In 1934, he took a job as operations manager of Paramount Pictures in Hollywood. 4 years later, he became the studio manager, a position of considerable importance, where he was responsible for budgeting, production, lighting, sound, set construction, wardrobe, art, and film processing. Goes on to say here, working with such Hollywood notables as Cecil B. DeMille. Glenman was also credited with important invocations in the film industry during the time at Paramount, including the first full-fledged engineering department. In 1940, during the summer of 1941, Glenman became the studio manager of Samuel Goldwyn Studios, MGM. Now, this is all before NASA. This was his qualifications.
You know, this all makes sense now.
Lookout Mountain Air Force Station, a photographic installation of the Aerospace Audiovisual Service Military Airlift Command, to process the many types of film handled here and exposed by not only our production unit, but others dispersed around the world.
Did you know that Marilyn Monroe had a Defense Department card so she could go in along with Jimmy Stewart?
T. Keith Glennon went to work for NASA. He was on leave, right, from his job at the Case Institute of Technology in Cleveland, Ohio. Yes, the Rockefeller land.
Tomorrowland. Promise of things to come.
Promise of things to come.
Which he headed that from 1947 onward. And when he was finished at NASA, he went back to Cleveland, Ohio to work with the Rockefellers. So why would a guy that was an image expert, what would he have to do with rocket business, you know, going to the moon and NASA?
The head of the space agency. And I said, my God, Jim, I don't quite understand. I don't know anything about space. I don't know what kind of rocket you like.
Giving birth, founding NASA.
Let's go on to read exactly his qualifications. Now look at it this way. If in point of fact what people say, if any of this is true about the faking of the moon landing and the whole thing about space, if it was fake, then you would need a Photoshop guy. You wouldn't need an expert in imaging to pull it off, wouldn't you? Now let's think of another guy who is an expert in imaging. What's the guy that married the head filmmaker in Nazi Germany?
The niece.
Stanley Kubrick.
Another expert in imaging was Stanley Kubrick.
She married none other than Stanley Kubrick.
Hitler. His movies list like Goebbels 101. They shaped our consciousness. War with Full Metal Jacket. Mind control, drugs, and violence with Clockwork Orange. Immorality with Eyes Wide Shut. Pedophilia with Lolita. Artificial Intelligence, 2001 Space Odyssey. Well, let's see an excerpt of what Stanley Kubrick, right before he died, said about the moon landing.
I perpetrated a huge fraud, which I am now about to detail.
Okay.
Involving the United States government and NASA, that the moon landing was fake, that the moon landings all were fake, and I was the person who filmed it.
You're serious, and okay.
I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
Because I only have this certain amount of time with you, and I'll talk about whatever you want. You know, this isn't some type of joke or
no, it's not
film within a film thing.
It's not a joke. Nope.
Okay.
The conspiracy theorists were right on this occasion.
Again, just consider for 1 second, if the moon landing was faked, what would that look like? What would you see?
Man, one giant leap.
Oh shit!
So, I guess you want to do it again.
Yep, shoot it again.